seafaring business, it's not a profession that you enter, you work and you retire. It's not at all like that. You go to sea for a period of time, and then you come ashore. And it's not because only of the lack of access to internet or the living conditions. The life conditions changes. I think one of the areas that one can actually invest in getting seafarers, more seafarers, would be to create a career platform for them, that after the sea, the life doesn't end. There's actually a possibility to continue your profession ashore, and that would be the channel that you need to follow, because otherwise, I mean, we are going to be looking at a situation where our ships are going to be laid up not because of the lack of commodity, but because of lack of competent seafarers, and that should not happen.
Yeah, we've got time. You can have this back to.
I want to react to this. I mean, the biggest mistake is being made on the schools itself. When they educate seafarers, they tell them beforehand that they will leave the sea in 7 years. Then they have. Then after that, they can make a career ashore. They never tell seafarers that a complete seafarer's life is also attractive. And the big thing is that we need also captains, experienced, elderly seafarers on our ships. I know that Carnival cruises want European captains and officers on board their ships. How can we get them if you advertise at the schools that the people will not sail longer than 7 years? How can we ever get a captain from a can or from the deep freeze? I don't know.
Yeah. You first. No, this. Oh, you first, and then I'll come to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so lucky that I have followed this MoS discussion from its very beginning, and I remember in the start it was a very legal exercise with a lot of desk work and so on. But for the last 5 years or something like that, I think that we have turned in the right direction with many projects reflecting the complexity of the maritime world. And however, I think that the test of our work is that the MoS thinking will be adopted by partners within the logistic chain, partners which haven't got grants from the EU, because I think it's very important that we try to abstract MoS from EU funds. It must be a way of living, so to say. And I really look forward to the detailed implementation plan, because I hope that there we will see all the bits and pieces from all of the motorways of the sea projects will be put together so that we can see the whole drawing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Craig McCarthy from UK Department for Transport. Not a question as such, but some information really. I'm glad to hear from lots of other parties here that skills in the ports and maritime sector is an issue across Europe. In the UK, last year, the industry, supported by government, undertook something called the Maritime Growth Study. That looked at a number of different areas, from rebuilding the UK flag to maritime business services, but one of the key areas it looked at, and one of the key sets of recommendations coming out of it, was on maritime skills and the need to ensure retention within the industry, to promote the maritime sector as a career, and for the industry themselves to be joined up. There's lots of good examples within the UK industry of individual companies and ports with training and apprenticeships programs. But as a whole, they don't talk to each other on that area, and it's not joined up. So coming out of that review, both industry and government will be taking forward a number of different recommendations to increase and improve training and skills provision for the maritime sector. But this is not just an issue that affects maritime within the UK, because in parallel with this, the UK Department for Transport has also undertaken a review and a study of technical and industrial skills within transport as a whole, both our rail network, our road network, and of course ports and seafarers all are suffering with that kind of skills shortages. So I'm glad to hear that, well not glad, but it's good to hear that other people are having similar issues. And I think if MoS can look at various elements that can potentially enhance training or make recommendations across the EU, then that would be useful.
Can I just add to that? In another life, I am chairman of the Heritage Railways Association in Britain, the old steam trains, if you like. And whilst it's not very big in Europe, we have about 8 million visitors a year in the UK. So it's a big industry. And we've been discussing that very point that you made. The skill shortage is there. It's there in the UK. It's there throughout Europe. Now for us it's even worse because not everybody wants to be a riveter, or a welder, or a boiler maker in the heritage railway sector. There are some, but it's a devil's own job getting people interested in that kind of work. It's dirty work. And now I've often said, in Britain, if you want an engineer, you struggle to get one. If you want a media studies graduate, we have them coming out of our ears. Bloody hundreds of those. But we can't get engineers. And that's something that the UK has recognised and has started to put right through reintroduction of apprenticeships. And we in Heritage Railways have been part of that. And I would like to think that we in maritime have got to do something similar. We've got to make it more attractive for young people, because young people these days are very discerning where they go for the job. You know, gone are the days where your dad went to sea so you went to sea, or your dad worked in railways so you worked in railways, or because you were from Liverpool you were automatically pigeonholed for a career in maritime. Gone are those days. And we've got to be attractive, and we are competing in the maritime section against retail. It's easier to be in retail. Collar and tie, whoa, great job. And we've got to get over these kind of illusions that if you wear a collar and tie, it's a good job. If you get your hands dirty, it's a bad job. Because it's not like that anymore. We need more people who get their hands dirty and who want to get their hands dirty in both maritime and transport generally. I just thought I'd let you know that experience that we have. We have our own, we've set up our own apprentice scheme. It's called BEST, but in which we encourage people to become apprentices and then go to the Heritage Railways. But we have a problem that we train them up, we get them qualified, and then the big railway pinches them, takes them, steals them, because they can offer more money. And it's sad to say, in this day of I'm going to say of capitalism, the more they pay you, the more you like to go for them. That gone is the loyalty of staying with a company for 20 odd, 30 odd years. I'd love to know how many people these days stay with a company 25 years. Well, Wojciech says commission officials, and that's about it. But you get my drift, it doesn't happen anymore. We've got to change to the changing circumstances. Sorry to pontificate, but
you did pontificate very well. Just a small minor point. And again, taking to this, we will take all of your inputs. We will balance them out and we will present the detailed implementation plan. It's not going to reflect each and every one of your views. It's going to be our view based in your input. It will then be put out to the Parliament for discussion, and it will eventually, I hope, become a reference document. In parallel with these, we will continue with opening up the possibilities to grant monies for development. So, and again, the human element, since, as Sofia Papantoniado stated, and I was training, that's why I was outside, I was training the name, and I did well, apparently. I will not try it again. As she stated, I think that the important thing is that it is clear, it should be clear to each and every one of you that in the 20 guidelines currently, one of the areas of development for motors of the sea is the human element. It's education and training. It is there. Whether people like it or not, it is there, like many other things in life that whether you like it or not are there. So it is there, and if anyone submits proposals that are under the remit, under our remit, we will evaluate them, and it will be on their merits that the proposals will go forward or not. So, again, the issue is there. We are not there to promote standards. We are there to facilitate the improvement of the sectors. And of course, if we can contribute to avoid attrition among seafarers, which is something that since I came to the sector is afflicting the sector. So I came in the sector in 1974, and at that moment in time we were discussing this. I came to the sector just before STCW was ever approved. Okay, and I was in the sector when STCW was approved, and I was teaching in the nautical school and in the Portuguese administration when we had to incorporate STCW. And we tried over and over to avoid attrition and to increase the welfare among seafarers and to improve the living conditions, to reduce the human element, the errors. We could discuss why did Amoco Cadiz happen? Why did Costa Concordia happen? Why did this happen, the other happen? We do not have the answers. The answers are complex. The issues are complex. The only thing we are telling you is that we do not have a yes or no answer. It's not black or white. Probably the ways to avoid attrition are not only what Irene Rosberg said, or only what you said, or only what Brian said, are probably a good mix of the three. And probably if we just look into a normal GOS distribution, there will be a part of seafarers that will stay there forever. There will be a part that will leave after 1 year, and there will be a part of them that will be there in the part of the curve, and that's that part that we should be looking at, because the longer it is, the better it is. But, and I would agree with you, even monks, when they join the monasteries right now, they ask for beer and for internet.
Are there any more questions? Yes.
My name is Per Stefensson. I'm one representing a ship owner, Stena. I was just sitting here listening to the whole discussion and so on, and just reflecting a little. And that is actually in the 80s in Sweden we had this TV show that it was called Rederiet, the ship owner in Swedish. And there was this guy that was working in the machinery, the chief engineer, and he was a crook. He was dealing drugs and things like that, you know. Yeah. And then
Thank you very much for
and then there was the captain, and he was always in a shining uniform, and he was always meeting the beautiful girls and so on, you know. And actually, during the period, and that TV series was like, I think 7 years or something. And during that period, it was impossible for the engineers on the schools, you know, to get any students to study to be engineers, while it was completely full of people that wanted to be captains. So that tells me a little about actually that when young people are choosing their job, it is very much just what people are saying at the moment. It is very much just what you say, fate, not fate, but some kind of just a hinge that, well, maybe I should be captain, or maybe I should be an officer. And I think from that, what I wanted to say is that actually public relation is very, very powerful. And so my question is then, would there, within the motorways of the sea, be a possibility to maybe make a big public relation, drive somehow that to work in short sea shipping and to be a seafarer? That is really something that you could make some nice videos and things like that, and really.
You see a lot of nice women.
The world is full of that.
Why did you choose becoming an engineer?
Because that was before this TV
program.
No, it's just a reflection and a question. Would that be possible within the motorways of the sea? Thank you.
This is a public relations event. The 10T days, it's a public relations event. And it's what we force each and every consortium that carries each and every contract to do is making a public relation event, which is the final conference, and put there a large board saying sponsored by the European community, by the European Union, right? So, an appropriate, we are not there with, safeguard for Danish shears, because you will so we are not there to promote directly videos, but if it makes sense in a project, having a conference or having a set of advertisements that identify certain issues, and if that is supported by the whole thing, and if the evaluators internally and externally accept that, I don't see why not.
Just to add to that, especially for pilot actions, it is an obligation to have a dissemination events. So it's not just a possibility, it's an obligation, as you know, when we are developing pilot actions, that other stakeholders, industry parties benefit from the results of a specific action. So we do have that. On the top of that, as you know, that the European Commission and in the framework also of the development of the Delta implementation plan, has developed, together with the consultant who is sitting in this desk, a platform that is a platform of communications in which you can also promote your interest, and you can promote more motorways of the sea. So in that framework, we do also have a portal dedicated to motorways of the sea. On the top of that, you know that INEA as an agency is organizing through its website links to your website, so we can actually exchange. We are also always open to promote events that you are organizing in the framework of your projects. So I think that in such way we are helping quite a lot on the dissemination of the results of the projects, on the promotion of them of the motorways of the sea. As such as information campaigns, no, they are not as such eligible, covered by the remit of motorways of the sea as it is in the regulation.
Do we have time for a short comment? Oh, sorry.
Go on.
Maybe then we should have that in the DIP. It should be possible to for all the marine schools, maybe they could go together with some public relation companies and so on, and they really come forward with a project saying promoting seafarers in the motorways of the sea, or something like that. And really, that is not the dissemination part, which I'm aware of, that we have in all the project. But this will really be the project, that because this is within human element for the seafarers within the motorways of the sea. I think that maybe is a good idea for the future.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
Right.
Here, make a small email and send it.
Okay.
Yes, can I just comment on that? What I think is really important, I'm Helen Jansson from Zero Vision Tool, and we host approximately 22 different industry projects, and they are combined in pilots and are gradually supported by the European Commission, so we're very thankful for that. However, last time we had the conference, the Motorways of the Sea conference, we had approximately 200 visitors. However, online we had 11,000 people following on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and also seeing all the presentations. So what I think is important is that we start to use different types of channels, because then we reach what we want to reach, I think. So it's important, and perhaps that could be part of it, that we say it's not only conferences, it's other channels, and try to be more observant on where we promote, what we actually do, because all of you have so much knowledge, and all of you can promote in your way what you actually do and how you do it, and all the important stuff that is going on, both on board and in ports and everywhere. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to make a comment on what Irene's presentation was. And when you look at engineering and maritime and transport generally, we preclude 50% of the population. Women. We don't encourage women to go in the profession. I don't know why, but we don't encourage them. And we need to a change of attitude in regards to that. There is no profession, there is men only, women only. We should mix them up. Going back to my Heritage Railways, if I can take on 2 Boilermaker apprenticeships who are women, then I'm bloody sure we can get more women in maritime industry and more women in engineer. But it's a basic flaw with education system. This is a basic flaw. It's a flaw in Great Britain. We pigeonhole women to do certain things at the age of 11. Right, women, domestic science, boys, woodwork, and that's if you're good. You know, we've got to change the education system where girls are doing science and technology and all that kind of thing with the boys. And I don't know how we manage to do that when they can make the choices, and they make the choices that are not engineering based or scientific based. This has been a long discussion, as my friend from the Department Department of Transport will tell you. It's been a long discussion in the United Kingdom for a good while. When I was a teacher, we were on about why don't girls go into education, why don't girls go into engineering, and that was 1989 when I was last a teacher, you know. Yeah, I'll come back, yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Just to pick up on that point, and about the awareness of the maritime sector as a career for both male and female. First of all, I think when you're looking at skills shortages across the transport sector, you know, there's a high visibility of rail, there's a high visibility of road, there's a high visibility of other technical sectors. People don't think about the maritime sector as a career path anymore, and there's not the awareness of it. So partly in sort of promotional activity and awareness, that is something we need to increase for both sexes. I refer to some good practice that many of our ports do in the UK. So, for example, the Port of Tilbury, they have outreach to local colleges. They work with some of the local colleges to promote maritime careers, whether that be at sea or just in various parts of the port estate. So actually, linked to ports, there's a huge shortage in logistics staff as well. So they have their own college and training facility on site for that. Teesport, PT Ports up in Teesport, again, they have a community outreach program. They go into schools they talk about the maritime sector, they talk about the port sector. Those are some of the kinds of activities that are getting it in at a grassroots level. And as I mentioned, we've got that across different parts of the UK, but it's not joined up yet. So one of the things coming out, I think, will be more promotion across the country as a whole. My background prior to maritime, which has been the last year, was in the rail sector in the Department for Transport. And actually, things are improving quite a lot there in terms of equality and the balance of the sexes. I was shocked when I first joined maritime to see some of our statistics on female seafarers particularly. The port sector is perhaps better represented, but still compared to rail and roads, it's fairly shocking. And so I think as an industry, that's something we need to address across the UK and Europe as a whole.
I agree. Captain?
Coming back to the women seafarers, I've had in my career already many female seafarers on board my ship, which were doing a wonderful job. So there's no problem whatsoever. One of the reasons that the females are at the moment not employed by ship owners is the fact that they leave the sea very early to enter on the family life. Even the men, as I said, was 7 years. Women are leaving the sea even in less than 7 years. So ship owners don't want to invest in women because they say they leave the industry very soon. That is the reason. If women are employing or looking for a job which they want to do in the future, and they hear this, they won't go to the nautical school because they won't have a job afterwards, because ship owners just don't take them on, don't employ them whatsoever. So this culture also has to change.
Hi, my name is Dimitris Liridis. I am Associate Professor in the National Technical University of Athens. And I have been involved for a series of projects like MoS and MoS 2 and Mona Lisa. I had a lot of things that have been discussed here for my presentation a bit later, but I think it is important to mention now. I have seen yesterday, there is a report by BIMCO and International Chamber of Shipping, that says that by 2025, there will be a lack of 147,000 officers for ships. I think we need a more proactive way of attracting people, and actually I don't like the word attract. We need a more proactive way of inspiring people to the sea profession.
Yeah.
It is very easy, being in a small circle like this one and like this fora, to think that everybody knows about short sea shipping, about motorways of the sea. In the course of attracting students for our MoS project, it has been quite apparent how few people know about it outside this circle. And this has been, I think, the most for me, the better justification for this, I can say, bold move by MoS to promote training in motorways of the sea. It has put motorways of the sea and short sea shipping in the employment map. I would like to discuss more about this later. I do not want to take the lunch, but I think this was the major contribution.
Yeah. Ladies.
Hello, hi. I'm Catherine Rees from Associated British Ports. So as a young female here, I'd just like to echo what Brian and the individual from the Department of Transport have said. I think as a young female in the maritime profession, you know, as you say, it's quite a male-dominated, white male-dominated industry, so you know we would welcome any approaches like that. ABP as a company do engage with local stakeholders, universities, colleges, and we've recently had our apprenticeship awards which saw male and female apprenticeships winning, so you know I think we would just work with individual stakeholders across the UK to champion this, because I think work is being done, but there's more to be done to, as you say, promote the maritime industry for young people and especially females. So I'd just like to echo those comments, so thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's a good discussion. I like them discussions. It was a good discussion about what people were saying. I have one more question, but it's nothing to do with training so much. and it's to Isabel really, Isabel Rinkler. Isabel, what can we do, and I include myself in this and you, what can we do to get member states who are cohesion countries to spend their money in ports instead of always giving it to railways? There's a good question for you. I'm sure you agree with me, we need more of the money going into ports in the cohesion countries, the CEF and so forth, but it doesn't happen. And I'm frustrated like hell it doesn't happen.
I think this is the role of the coordinator.
Very good.
No, I think it's true that certainly motorways of the sea. I always say ports are part of a network. And,
Yeah.
I mean, one port in itself that has everything,
Yeah.
it's not functioning if the other ports in the network are not, and you're linking with, are not at the same level. And so it's very important to also have these ports, all the ports in the network and also in the motorways of the sea. And so I think we need to work on that, but probably also we from the side of ESPO and from ESPO and but also I think the presence of you and in these countries and can I think pass the knowledge and the information that we can contribute certainly.
I think it's incumbent upon us all in those countries to beat the drum, if you like, for ports and maritime. I don't think there's been enough drum beating about our importance to a nation's economy. It's always been the railways, bang, we must have the railways, or roads, we must have roads. And yet, as you say, ports are part of the network, and without them, the whole thing collapses in a big pile of junk, you know. So I think we need to go at those governments in the cohesion countries who are not spending on maritime. I'm not saying that it should all go to ports, but I'm just saying, hey, let's have some fair share of the cake from the cohesion funding. Yeah.
Can I just, well, we had 120 million for the general envelope and 150 million unspent for the cohesion. So what happens? Everybody, the 28 countries applied to the 150 million.
Yeah.
And the 14 countries that could have applied, together with the others, but taking the money from the 150 million, haven't
done so.
They haven't done so. So you imagine the problem from each and every one of us. That is, on the one hand, you're not using the funds. On the other hand, you're competing with all the other ones on using common funds. So this is really, spoiling a good opportunity. And if the organizations, even universities, the mutualities, but especially the ports, the ship owners, do not convince the member states that the maritime sector is fundamental for the economy, I can understand that some landlocked countries cannot understand it immediately, but I can hardly understand that countries such as Bulgaria or Romania cannot understand it. Possibly.
Dimitris.
Yes, I just, because I have lived through the situation with the cohesion funds in Greece, but I'm sure it is the same thing with other countries. Many of the ports in these countries were being managed and operated in a very amateurish way. The argument for rail and road is that they have mature and ready projects. And this may not be entirely true, but it is an argument that is convincing for the state. And this is one of the major obstacles for ports to convince the country to put projects in the cohesion corridor. Now with the changes, at least in Greece, in management, in the mentality about the privatization, we hope that this thing changes. But it is an inherent problem in the cohesion countries. And maybe this is what you have to address, and not a circumstantial, let's say, treatment of the problem. It is not a matter of dissemination, in my opinion.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, I'm Panagiotis Zachariadakis from MoS and Finance. The truth is that we tried several times to go for it, with, at least with Greece and some other countries belonging to the cohesion list. The first reaction from the member states is that okay, shipping and motorways of the sea is not the favored, let's say, subject for the cohesion, and we all know that. And there is no, let's say, formal way to persuade the member state to allocate to motorways of the sea some portion of the cohesion funds. My thinking is that the solution will come on its own with the way the cohesion funds will be reallocated to the countries. By removing this quota for each country, then each member state will not try, to deal with its own money, but on a competitive way. Then this will open the door to other projects and projects also for the motorways of the sea. This is fundamental, and we need to keep motorways of the sea in the cohesion map. We need to have calls for the motorways of the sea in the cohesion, and eventually by the next call or the call after the next one, the things will change, and we will have a lot of calls in the motorways of the sea because we need to have it. There are fundamental changes in front of us in shipping in general, a lot of regulations to cope with, and we need all the possible support from the European incentives in order to have a smooth transition to this new era for sulfur cap imports, in order to develop the necessary infrastructure for alternative fuel and so on.
Gustav Malmqvist, I work as a consultant for several Swedish ports, not cohesion countries so much, but also from time to time assist ANIA as a regulator. There might be many reasons for this problem. I would say it's a real problem that the funding is not spent. But as you are all aware, there is a new limitation in the new CEF program. That is that you need to collaborate between at least one core port and one comprehensive port. And in the cohesion countries, there are certainly very many comprehensive ports with important, so to say, motorways of the sea